Unleashing her inner voice. Amelia chewed pensively on the eraser of her pencil. The orange juice and breakfast burrito, which she had bought only 15 minutes earlier, weren't appetizing anymore. Her stomach did flip-flops as she stared down at her notebook, trying to come up with new topics for that month's school newspaper. Writing for the Madison High School newspaper wasn't her choice of an extracurricular activity. Social activities in general did not appeal to her. Amelia was a creature of habit, and for as long as she could remember, it was always rush to school, try to comprehend as much as she could, and then race back home. She did have friends who could coax her out of her bubble, but the apprehension of it all was always torture. The school paper was one of those times. Not only was it her friends who had coaxed her into it, but also her mother. Now, staring down at a swirling vortex of words while her juice grew warm and burrito grew cold, she had the burden of selecting a topic that she hoped a few hundred adolescents would find appealing. Did you figure out a topic yet? Her friend Adeline threw her backpack onto the bench. Adeline had been her best friend since intermediate school, making her the oldest. Although she was usually the mastermind of coaxing Amelia, she understood her situation and proceeded with discretion. Not yet, she mumbled. Well, I have a suggestion. Amelia was all ears. She needed something to present to the editor by the end of the day. With such little confidence in herself, everyone else's ideas and actions always seemed the best. Have you noticed how many transgender students there are? That was a heavy topic, and thus she never paid attention. With her anxiety always flaring up, it was hard to focus on anything. Where are you going with this? Maybe the school should consider same-sex bathrooms. Amelia felt a twist in her stomach. That's a major discussion, Adeline, and will come with a bunch of criticism. I don't want to come to school feeling worse than I already am. That's what makes a good reporter, Adeline exclaimed. Don't you want to put Madison High on the map? She shook her head. Adeline made a face. Aw, you're no fun. Anyway, let me know what you decide. The bell rung. Before they headed to class, Adeline pulled her aside. The electives are in. Do you want to see what you got real quick? There was a long list of names and electives next to the office window. Amelia ran a finger down until she came across her name. Oh no, I have debate class. Lucky you, her friend said sarcastically. Let's see, I have drama club. Not too bad. I guess I can act. Next to being on the school paper, debate class was the worst. Not only did she have to speak her mind on something that was really sensitive, but she would have to speak in front of an audience. She knew she wasn't alone in having a fear of public speaking. Most of her friends, besides Adeline, shared that fear. The mere thought of mumbling her words in front of a dozen eyes could keep her from even sitting still. The elective would begin the following week, and every night she would find herself pacing her bedroom before she would attempt to go to sleep. The school paper was now furthest from her mind. She would present the same-sex bathroom topic to the editor no matter what the repercussions were. Dealing with some harsh criticisms was nothing now compared to feeling like an idiot in front of the whole class. Mr. Gibson, the teacher for the class, was a small, meek-looking man with a gray 5 o'clock shadow and beady eyes. He also taught freshman English, so at least he was a familiar teacher to Amelia. He could be harsh when he wanted to be, but not before giving as much advice as possible. Sitting in the back row, Amelia felt sick to her stomach. The class only held 12 students, but that was 11 students too much. Also, Mr. Gibson's temperance seemed more forbidding, like debate was the most important subject she would ever learn. It was all the more reason for Amelia to feel sick. I'm glad you've been selected for this class, he began. Debate is something that happens every day. When you and your buddies can't decide on which TV show to watch, you are debating. When you can't decide on which drink to buy in the vending machine, you are debating. It is an important aspect of our lives, whether we realize it or not. It's the backbone of democracy and core principle of the First Amendment. Mr. Gibson began passing out the semester's assigned topic. Amelia took the paper with cold and clammy hands. It's widely debated that our freedom of speech is being threatened. Media outlets like the radio are constantly getting bombarded with criticisms either from the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, or by an outcry of listeners. Someone gets offended and suddenly there are petitions and strikes against them. The subject over the next 2 months is whether or not you believe that our First Amendment is on the verge of disappearing. Obviously, there will be two groups. He went over to the desk and picked up a plastic clear bowl. Inside the bowl was a bunch of small square papers. You're going to pick the side out of this bowl. Amelia tried to figure out which side would be easier. The opposed side had a lot of examples. There had been countless cases on same-sex marriages alone. She crossed her fingers and prayed. She hadn't prayed hard enough. Get with your teams and discuss how you're going to present your case. Chairs squeaked as the students sluggishly moved to their respective groups. Amelia held back until her group had formed. One of her teammates, Stacy, gave her a dirty look. Amelia groaned silently. They were not the worst enemies, but not the best of friends, probably because Stacy knew how much Amelia could fumble in a stressful situation. Do you think you'll be able to stand up there without bumbling like an idiot, she asked. Amelia felt the heat rush to her face. I think I can handle my own. There was no confidence in her words. After class, she rushed into the hallway and back to the benches outside. The rest of the day was normal, which she was at least prepared for. When it was over, she rushed home like normal and was surprised to see her father's truck in the driveway. He was a graphic designer for a local magazine company designing ads for small businesses. He was never home when school let out. Her parents were sitting in the kitchen. They both had disgusted and angry looks on their faces. "What's going on?" Amelia asked. "Your father was fired today," her mother reported dolefully. Amelia's eyes went wide. "How come?" Her father turned to face her. "Apparently it's against the law to speak up for what you believe in. I placed an ad in the paper declaring how distasteful it is that KCRS is allowed to broadly berate the immigration policies in the country and how the radio station should be listened to at your own discretion." Amelia couldn't believe what her father was saying. How is that different than what the station was doing? Couldn't they just not print it? "They didn't," her father said, "but they felt they needed to fire me also." "Did you apologize and admit that you were wrong?" Her father gave her a stern look and raised a finger. "Amelia, you never apologize for something you believe in. In this day and age, having a voice is vital. Otherwise, your rights as a human being will slowly disappear." "I suggested we sue them," her mother chimed in. "Your father said it would be a waste of time." Amelia went over and hugged her father. "Where would you work now?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Something will come up. Don't worry, Pumpkin." The rest of the evening had a sorrowful atmosphere about it. Amelia was talking about how she had to present a case for freedom of speech in debate class. "I hate public speaking," she said. "Why don't you practice on us?" her father suggested. "Thanks, but I need a bigger audience." "Tomorrow," her mother said, "we'll invite your grandparents and your aunt and uncle over. You can practice on us." That would help, but it was still a bunch of eyes gawking at her. What was worse, if she screwed up, she would have to deal with their sorrowful looks, making her feel even more miserable. It was one thing to be criticized and hated, but she definitely didn't want people feeling sorry for her. For the remainder of the week, debate class was spent in the library, which Amelia considered an oasis. Her teammates mostly ignored her, either intently consumed with the research or a computer game. Mr. Gibson offered a few suggestions after seeing her list of potential cases. "It has to be renowned," he declared. "Present something that had a defining impact on the country." Her father's situation was causing her attention to fog over. He was only stating his opinion. They couldn't fire him over that. Her mother was right. They would have a reasonable case. Amelia cursed the school newspaper. At this point, it was pretty much an inconvenience. It was something that didn't have to be in her life, but was only there because everyone thought it would be good for her. Her lunch period, the only period where she was supposed to unwind, vent, or relax, was now spent scribbling notes for a new topic, since the editor decided the same-sex bathrooms wouldn't be very relatable. As she was scribbling the notes, a new concern popped into her mind. The topic shouldn't have to be relatable. A newspaper consists of news, stories, and opinions. This was an opinion that had the potential to be examined. Then she had another idea, the topic for her debate class, how the First Amendment affects a student's future. She quickly Googled student rights and found a bunch of cases where the boundaries of freedom of speech were tested by students alone. All the excitement made her forget about her practice run with her relatives. Her stomach fell from the anticipation when she grew closer to home. "Do you have something prepared?" her grandfather asked that evening. "Not really," she admitted. "Why don't you just talk about something?" her grandma suggested. Public speaking was one thing, but improv was another. You couldn't improvise when you clammed up on stage. Her voice came out squeaky with only 3 or 4 word sentences. She talked about school, how nervous she was about debate class, and how the editor rejected her topic about same-sex bathrooms. "I have my own opinion on that," her grandfather commented, "but you fight for what you believe in, sweetie." "Remember, Amelia," her father started, "when you're up in front, your voice has to be sharp and deliberate. I know it's just a course, but when you get out into the real world, you're going to need a voice. Let's say you want a job real bad and they won't give it to you. You have to be persistent. Show them how bad you want it, and that means having a voice." "Why don't you fight to get your job back?" Amelia asked. Her father seemed to shrink back. "That would be more than likely require a lawyer, and we don't have that kind of money. There are other companies that hire graphic designers. I'll be okay. You need to concentrate on yourself." "I don't know which is worse," Amelia told her mother later on, "Dad getting fired or him not fighting back." "He's never been good at standing up for himself," her mother explained. "I think that's where you get it." Amelia didn't like hearing that, but she knew it was true. Social anxiety didn't hit her father as hard as it hit her. How she became such a mess was anyone's guess. "It's like the pot calling the kettle black," she said. "He tells me to find my voice, but yet he hasn't found his." "That's another thing about your father," her mother said. "He's not good at following his own advice. Also, honey, you have Asperger's syndrome. Finding your own voice might be more of a challenge, but it's not impossible." When the relatives were gone, she immediately set to work on her debate assignments, researching more school cases and experimenting with a first draft. Afterwards, she started in on the school's paper. She wrote about how rejecting the topic of same-sex bathrooms violated the students' right to free speech, and surmising the basis comes from the paper's personal and biased reliefs. The influence from her father grew throughout the evening. He had been a success at his job, but unfortunately not because of his backbone. She was her father's daughter, but she didn't want her future to not have a backbone. It was like her father had told her. If she didn't want her opportunities taken away from her, she needed to find her voice. The first debate was in 2 weeks. During that time, Amelia hardly said a word. Secretly, she was preparing herself, mentally. The physical work was there, but she would need extra time to settle in the right mindset. All that mental preparation seemed to dissipate when the day finally came. Sitting at her desk, hands shaking and pulse racing, she might have been having a panic attack for all she knew. How could one feel a panic attack when the symptoms were a part of their everyday life? 2 of her teammates went up first. Amelia always wanted to be the first, just to get it over with. Most of what her teammates presented hardly registered. Her mouth felt like it was frozen shut. It was clenched so tightly that her teeth started to ache. As she approached the wobbly podium, which was only perched on a 3-legged tripod, her father drew up in her mind. She heard him speak, reminding her once again that it was important to have a voice, and how it needed to be expressed. She perched her papers on the stand, swallowed hard, and cleared her throat. If our freedom of speech is stripped away, imagine the impact it would have on children. Our future could be impacted based on the simplest freedoms that would not have been looked at 50 years ago. There have already been cases in schools where our First Amendment has been attacked. In the Minarciani versus Strongsville City School District case of 1976, it was ruled that by removing Joseph Heller's novel Catch-22, it violated that right, all because the school board didn't agree with the book's content. The words poured out of her. Her fingers gripped the sides of the podium to the point her knuckles were white. As quick as it began, it was over. There was neither applause nor a sign of approval from Mr. Gibson, but when Amelia headed back to her desk, there was a victory celebration going on inside of her. Yes, this was only the beginning, a small clip of what the semester would bring, and she would more than likely have to build herself up every time. Yet at that moment, she wasn't all that concerned. For the first time since taking the class, she felt confident. As soon as the class was over, she hurried to the principal's office. The principal, Mr. Dilbert, gave a questioning look, for she rarely came to visit him. "Hey, Amelia, how can I help you?" She explained how the editor of the school's paper rejected her topic, and that she wanted to take precautions on this new one. It took every ounce of mental strength to present her case to him, and now her heart was about to explode when he looked the first draft of the potential article over. Finally, to her immediate relief, he gave his word. With her newfound confidence, after school Amelia stopped by the local city's newspaper, the Madison Weekly Gazette. She asked them if they could run an article she had typed up the night before about how certain businesses, like her father's former place of work, unfairly fires people over personal beliefs. To publish, it would cost her $120. To Amelia, it was worth every penny. Unleashing her inner voice.